ضيوفنا الكرام، رحبوا معنا بيمنى نوفل من وايت شاتس الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية ومتحدثي هذه الجلسة.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Youmna Naufal of White Chats and her panel.
Good morning, and welcome to our session. It's so nice to see a full room here of ladies and gentlemen. Our session today is called Networks That Work. And it's really interesting because if you ever thought you could succeed on your own, think again. You need to mobilize networks to do so. I remember when I graduated, they told me it's all about networking, and I thought to myself, well, how do I do that effectively? How can we connect with people to help us achieve our goals? How do we know who we're supposed to be mobilizing? And in the digital age, you may think it's less important to network, but social intelligence as a skill has never been more important. So with us today, to provide some perspective, are three experts in their fields. I'm going to start with the ladies, if you permit. Ms. Tallineau, the CEO of l'Institut Français in France. Ms. Rania Nashar, sitting in the middle, the CEO of Samba Financial Group, and Mr. Laurent Bernard, the Vice President of Talent Management at Steelcase in the United States. And I know you're furthest away from me, but I want to start with you. Having worked as a special advisor on cultural and soft diplomacy to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in France, can you tell me about the importance of this human-to-human collaboration?
Well, I think we can say that the core of it. In my previous job with Laurent Fabius that you mentioned, as well as my job today, we work at the intersection between diplomacy and culture, this soft power. Yeah. This means that to be able to work, we first have to rely on the French diplomatic network abroad, which itself connects with the society in which they are working, as well as being able to work with all the professionals and artists from the field of culture. Culture is something very special because it speaks to the essence of the human being. Culture has to do with emotions, with intimacy. This means that to be able to work on an international basis, you have to be able to create personal relationship with artists, with their surroundings, with professionals. So we, at the Institut Français, are really at the crossover of all those different networks. We have the French and international culture networks, we have the international diplomatic networks, and everybody was connected to France. For example, somebody like you who has been in a French school when he was young.
Yes, French school in Riyadh, too.
Yes,
so, yeah.
when he was young. And we try to give the more substance possible to our international counterparts for them to be able to maintain and to expand their network. And how do you do that? It's like every relationship that you build in your life. It's like in families. The more you give, the more you get. Let me take just one example. We have one program which is called Lab Citoyen, Lab of Citizenship, where we ask the people we work with internationally to be able to detect young, promising personalities. It's a young leader program working in the field of citizenship. And then we make them work all together, region per region, and then we bring them all together in Paris. We hope that at this occasion, all those young, promising young leaders will be able to interconnect to each other, will be able to build bridges, to have personal relationship, as well as we build this relationship for the young leaders for tomorrow. And this will be work only if we maintain the personal relationship. So I would say this is the core of it.
And the
back to the beginning.
Yeah.
I hope I wasn't too long.
And the importance of personal relationship. And it's interesting, which brings me to you, Rania, because you are the first female CEO of Samba Financial Group. You are also a Saudi national. And finance, when you think about finance, you think it's such a male-dominated industry. So how did networking help you to get to where you wanted to get to in a financial sector?
Actually, networking was really an integral part throughout my career, and it really contributed towards putting me up into the corporate ladder on a fast-track basis. So when I first joined the bank, I always thought of being a good employee, I have to always learn something new, I have to contribute to the team that I'm working with, and I have to add value to the organization. So in order to have these values or these characteristics visible, I had to have my network. So I always look for, like, 4 types of networking, if I can say. One is the mentor. I was blessed to have a mentor because this is part of the our bank policy. So there was a mentor who helped me to work on my career path. Not only that, mentoring is not only you just rely on your mentor, but sometimes it's people who are subject matter experts in the area that you are working on. The other people are what I call them the mark, or the person that I want to impress towards, getting promoted or getting more assignments.
You still have to impress them, don't you?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a constant thing, yeah.
So I always have to work towards putting that person, in front of me, towards, working by showing that I can add value. The other important network is my sidekicks. I always believe that, Batman was always better with Robin. So the teamwork and, the team that I've been working with, it's always good to sit, collaborate, do a lot of brainstorming towards, helping each other in order to grow and success. And finally is the connectors, because sometimes you want to achieve a goal or you want to achieve something in the organization, but you don't know who will open the door for you or who will connect you to that team or to that person. So you always have to find the connector. And this network actually was always supported by my personal network of family and friends, whom whenever I gave up or I felt that I'm under pressure, they always give me this, ecosystem of support towards, proceeding in my career.
And that's, and it's very interesting because, even for somebody in finance, you need that support and you need that circle, whether it's personal, whether it's family, whether it's professional, and whether it's, connections that you're meeting from across the globe, which brings me to you, Mr. Laurent Bernard, visiting us from the United States here. At your company, which leads the way in creating great experiences by offering a range of architecture, furniture, and technology products and services, you designed a course, and the course is called Connect. It's about meaningful purpose and meaningful connection. Sorry, I was reading your bio and I was like, furniture, architecture, connect. How do you connect those? How did that happen for you?
So to understand your question, you need to think about who we are as a company. And our aspiration in reality is to unlocking the human promise. Unlocking the human promise of our customers, but also for our employees.
Right.
And so to achieve that, it's a complex problem to solve. And what we do, we are human-centric design. We always pay attention about employees, about user of our office and space, and be human-centric applied to across the organization. You can be in finance, you can be in HR. It's really part of our philosophy of work. Mm-hmm. Back to Connect, this course, is the convergence of 2 things. One is the company needs to create what we call team of teams. Mm-hmm. Team of teams is very difficult in organization. We know how to manage a team. We know how to behave and act within the team. Mm-hmm. But when it's about working between teams, cross-functional teams, it's very, very difficult. And because we're always blaming the others rather than to...
Right, so how do you solve that? How do you, when you come up with a challenge, how do you meet it?
Yeah, so that's why we created this course Connect, which helped the people to define as individuals and then after as teams their meaningful purpose, their meaningful connections, and their meaningful progress. And on the connection part, employees told us, listening from them, they need help because networking looks easy. Oh, I have my business card, I go on social media, and I may have 2,000 people connected right away. But is it the right things to do? Are you thoughtful about that? Are you strategic about that? And networking is not only a nice intent, it's a skill. And we need to help our employees to develop their skills about having the best network to achieve their goal, to achieve their development, and to achieve their career.
So since you mentioned it, it's not just about networking. It's about networking effectively to get to your goal. So what would you say are the top 3 skills that you need to have for networking? And then I want to get back to the ladies and ask them the same question.
Yeah, first, you need to be intentional about that. It takes time. You need to be mindful about what you want to achieve. You need to be authentic and humble. It's not about you. It's about the people you are going to connect with. And you need to listen, you need to ask, you need to recognize the value of your network. And that's mostly what we recommend to the people.
Those are good skills. Would you agree, Anne? To be humble, to listen, to recognize?
Yes, of course, because when you go and enter into a relationship, the first thing you have to do is to be able to perceive who is the human being you have in front of you or on the telephone or on the computer, but who is he, what is he waiting for? You have to consider to see him. I would say, referring to what you say, first of it, you have to be strategic. What do you want?
Strategic,
what do you want to achieve? And then refers back to what I said, you have to take and to give. And this means, for example, what we do, we are trying to build bridges between cultures, which means we promote French culture, but we have to see and to consider the other culture. In the case where we are here in Riyadh today, the Saudi culture. How can we make collaboration, cooperation, having bridges between those two cultures? And this goes through human being.
It's true. And it's interesting because I know you, Rania, an interesting fact for anybody who's watching us live and even here, over 70% of the Saudi population is the youth and millennials. And I know you've dealt with millennials a lot in your line of work. And what advice would you give them in terms of networking, this young generation that's coming up now?
Actually, the advice that I give to them is to be present. Because when you network, you have to be present, you have to show respect to the other party, you cannot be distracted. So I believe that being present, give before you take, and get feedback, this is actually, what helps.
Please,
just want to add something. You said something very important. Being strategic is thinking about the people who are in your network. And very often, I would like to invite everyone to think about your current network and to see if there is not some bias in your network. Because we tend to pick people who are like us, people who are be a sounding board to us, versus to be the disruptor of our beliefs. And that's what I like when you talk about the mentor, the connector. That's being strategic. And we teach our employees to say, you need to create your board of directors for networking. So having your network, having your strategist.
Having a network of people who are from different backgrounds. And so, when you say, oh, you can't just be networking with people who are like you. You need to be, you're talking about different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different cultures, probably. What about those who criticize us?
Very good.
Yeah.
You have to love them.
Because love them.
And so, of course, they have to do that in a respectful way.
Right.
So that it's hard to listen from them. But asking feedback all the time is a good thing, because it helps you to grow. And that's important to have people who are able to challenge your beliefs, challenge what you do, give you feedbacks about what you do well and what you can do better.
And you know, it's interesting you mentioned challenge, because Rania, I want to go back to you. You wanted to add something.
Yeah,
please.
actually, just to add to the point of being strategic, I'm sure that, you know, after the forum is over, everybody was exchanging cards, or digitally they were exchanging their contact information. So when you go back from such forum, you have, you know, on your email list more than 100, you know, contact points. So you need to be really strategic with whom you want to follow up with, and why you want to follow up with, and to keep that connection, rather than, you know, just, you know, getting, you know, stacks and stacks of business cards that you don't know what to do with.
And it's interesting, and Anna, I wanted to get your answer on this. He mentioned challenges, just generally, people who challenge you, but I want to take it further in terms of there are challenges to networking. Some people are shy, some people may not even know how to approach somebody, or, you know, what would you say, you know, what would you tell somebody, you know, in terms of meeting those challenges dead on? How do you meet those challenges if you are not a professional networker?
I think that in this case, you have to rely on the team. You have to rely on who is around you, building, working, participating in your project, who can help you to go to the other people. The team building process, the team building project is the key of this new society. And I've seen in my organization how in few years we went to a very vertical organization to a much more horizontal working process. And in this case of people who are not good at networking, because it exists, that's for sure, I think you have to rely on the team and what you can build on the team, and then make them progressively go and take confidence in them.
Yeah, and I think you were mentioning this, Laurent, and I want to, you know, we got to speak a little bit before the forum, and you said a few nice things about coming to Saudi. This is your first time here, and networking here as well, because, you know, we were mentioning how, as a Frenchman living in the United States, far from family, far from people, you had to network there as well. So for expatriates who are flying to different countries, how do you meet that challenge?
Well, this is a very hard challenge, because then you realize there is no life if you don't have a social life. And so when you arrive in a country which is not yours, you need to forget totally to judge. It's different. But to understand the difference, you need to connect with people. And so rebuilding your network locally in a country that you don't know, you don't understand the culture, takes a lot of time, resilience, but very, as you said, you have to be purposeful. You need to understand what kind of people you want for your social life. What are your passion? So my passion in the US were about the community and education, and also about opera. I like opera. So I started to target, so then I started to target those people. And the thing I would say, reach out, reach out. People are not gonna reach you out. You have to reach them out. And that's why it takes time and resilience to do that.
And a very interesting thing that we mentioned before the panel when we were speaking is that we tend to meet people and be biased already or think something, and then being open, and then, you know, you can meet something, or you can go to a new country and think, oh, I thought this, but now I think this. And I want you to tell me a little bit about this and tell our audience.
We try to promote at Steelcase a mindset, which is a learning mindset all the time. And we encourage people after trainings, meetings, to have this sentence to say, I used to think, and now I'm thinking, which really means you are reflecting about what did you learn from others. And so I share with you, and I say, when I came in Saudi Arabia, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, I used to think it was a country of tradition. And now I'm thinking it's a country of tradition and the country of the future. And that came to me very clearly, loudly in the last 48 hours.
I love that. I used to think Saudi Arabia was a country about tradition. It's a country about tradition and the future. And this is you know, the future here at U. Please, Anne, add if you want to add.
Just to react to what you said about being foreigner in America, being French in America, by the way. I think it's very important to have the chance to travel, to learn other languages, to understand and to be able to achieve what we are talking about today, I mean networking. I think the German thinker Goethe said that when you learn another language, you're a different person. Mm-hmm. I've lived a long time in Germany, for example, and I can say it's true. I'm not the same person in Germany speaking German that I am in France or that I am today in Arabia Saudi. And to be able to do the best achieve the best in the networking process, to be able to understand the other process of thinking of other people, this is a very important point, being able to speak many languages as much as possible.
It's you know, it's true, it's interesting because in a digital age, you feel everybody's interconnected. And you quoted Goethe. I'm going to quote Amal Clooney, who is Lebanese British, and she said, for the millennial age, the one quality you need today is courage. Courage to stand up, courage to go after what you want, courage to be proactive. And if you were, and you know, because we want to take a few questions from the audience, I'm sure you have a few questions. If you were to say the one word you need in the millennial age, what would it be? Rania.
In the millennial age, I believe, you know, the one word, the digital future is human being. We're seeing that, you know, everybody's talking about disruptive technology and robotics, they will replace human being, but I believe in the future, human being is the future, because all these technologies are helping us to being better human. They will let us focus more on the human values that are, you know, creativity, innovation, connectivity, which, you know, those robotics and digital will not bring it. So please stay away a little bit from your mobiles and try to have human-to-human collaboration.
So be human. Remember, you're human. Anne, the one word that you would use.
Well, in addition to be human, be creative.
Creative.
Because creativity is not rational, it's irrational, and that's also the part of the essence of the human being, and that's a skill which is going to be needed for the day of tomorrow.
Laurent.
Of course, I endorse what was said, but I would add another point, which is we talk about learning, but there is a learning which is really important. It's about learning from your failures. Don't be afraid to fail if you know how to learn. But if you don't know how to learn, it's better never fail.
So, to not be afraid to fail, remain human, be creative, and those are the skills of tomorrow. We want to just take a few questions from the audience, if that's okay. We're going to start with the ladies section. If you could just ask your question and introduce yourself, please.
Amal Gahtani from King Saud University. My question as students, how can we start a network to start our careers?
How can you start
a network
to start your career? Is your question for one of the panelists or open?
For all of them.
Whoever wants to. How do you start networking for your career? Well, as a student, thank you.
I would say you start with a project. You not start networking for networking. You start for a cause, for a project, for something you care of, and then you will be started networking.
Rania, how do you know, you're a student, you want to start networking, you don't know how to start. How do you begin? Where do you begin?
Actually, you begin, as I said, that you have to have your personal network, which is the family and friend, and then you have to have what we call it the operational network. It's basically your colleagues in the university, so you have to have, work on a project, work on an assignment together. So there you will start your network, and then you need to find, your mentors within the university. You go either the dean or one of the instructors, so they will start to help you towards knowing what's the right path in the future for you.
Please.
Yeah, we just add a simple things you may start very good is start to follow. but start to follow the followers. You are going to learn a lot about the people you can connect later on. If you follow them, you are going to start to learn from them. You are going to start to know them. And then when you are going to connect with them, you will be a meaningful connector to them.
All right. Another question? Anywhere from it? Please. And then we'll move here. Yes.
Thank you. So my question is to Mr. Laurent. As a VP of Talent Management, what would your advice be to someone who's switching industry? How can they network and switch industries?
I like this. I've done that a lot of time, because you learn so much. I started in the hospitality business, and I learned about the customer experience. Then I moved in the gas business, when I learned a lot about safety, security, and international business, and so on and so on. So I think it's a good thing. I think there is a big change in terms of career development between working for life for one company. I think what is important is learning. If you don't learn, you need to switch to another role. If you don't learn in this company, you need to switch for another company. This is too precious. Learning is critical for your career. Don't hesitate to take some risk, some leaps. That will be my recommendation.
All right. Thank you. Can we take a question from the gentleman, please? Or not?
Hi, my name is Salwa Abel-Jadail, and my question is for Miss Anne. You talked about promoting French culture and so forth, but I think promoting French culture is easy to the world. Who doesn't love France? I was wondering, how can we break the ice and build bridges when our culture is considered undiscovered and sometimes misjudged territory to the most of the world? Thank you.
So how do you break the ice?
Yeah, I'm sorry because I couldn't hear very well.
How do you break the ice to bridge cultures, is your question, especially when the cultures are so different?
Well, as nowadays Saudi Arabia is opening to having new steps in the cultural development. I hope that we will be able to present some of the French culture here, as well as working and collaborating on the big project of Vision 2030, where is it exactly it? When you work on the project of Alula, it is a Nabatean archaeological site, and how we could have people from France and people from Saudi Arabia working on common projects, for example, on this site. I think with Saudi Arabia opening right now, there is a lot of cooperation to come.
Does that answer your question a little bit? All right, thank you. We have time for one more question, one last question, and then I will invite all of you to network with our speakers. So, please.
Thank you, first of all, for the informative session. My question is for the entire panel. How to start the spark of networking and how to maintain it?
How to start the spark, how to maintain it is also, because we talked a little bit about how to start it, but how do you maintain your network? I think Rania touched a little bit about that, to maintain connection. Please, Laurent, if you would.
Just as an introduction, when we talk about networking, science is showing there's different kind of networks, and there are ties between people. And sometimes those ties could be strong. It's what you have with your family. Most of the time, you're good friends. You are in regular touch with them, and you don't think at all about that. What is very important is your weak ties, the people who are very far, because those are the people who are going to help you the most at some time. So cultivate those weak ties, require then to be very mindful, very thoughtful. And sometimes it's just take the time to just say, congratulations, I read an article about something that I know will call your interest, and so on and so on. It's very, very important to do that.
Rania, how do you maintain your network?
You maintain the network by always keeping in touch and make sure that you are always there and you keep giving. So at the time when you want to get, you want to get the reward from that network, you will always be connected. So you need to keep a list of people that you need to always revive the relationship with them, and you want to contact them as and when needed.
And last words. How do you maintain network?
Well, I couldn't say something better than what have been said on this subject. Just don't forget friends and family,
Don't forget. This wraps up our session, Networks That Work. A big round of applause for our speakers. Thank you all for attending. Allow me to introduce